It's Friday, February 14, and this is your Barbados Today Evening News Update. Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley claims that his office is being starved of the vital financial resources it needs to fulfill its mandate. In an exclusive interview with Barbados Today, Atherley says his party has been unable to receive a share in the $300,000 annual subvention for political parties represented in Parliament. This amid ongoing contention over whether his People's Party for Democracy and Development qualifies to receive the fund.
The PDP has not benefited in any way financially from any subvention provided to political parties in Barbados since the establishment of the party towards the end of 2018. I have heard the view expressed by others that as a member, sitting parliamentary member of the People's Party for Democracy and Development, that is sufficient to qualify the party since it's officially formed for receiving that subvention. I have heard that from others who have expressed that view. They're not members of parliament or connected with the parliament. I have heard MPs on the government side express that view, similar view to me. I have heard others in the precincts of parliament who are not parliamentarians also express the opinion that the PDP qualifies for such a subvention. But to answer your question directly, we have not been given the benefit of access to any such subvention.
He also revealed there's no official allocation for the office of the opposition, and this is severely affecting the work of his office.
I really was surprised to find when I came to this position as the leader of the opposition that the opposition in Parliament is funded in the way it is done. There is no budget which is allocated to the opposition. Can you imagine that? The opposition, the office of leader of the opposition, is a constitutional position. The office of the Governor General is a constitutional. The office of Prime Minister is a constitutional position. The Ministry of the Attorney General is a constitutional position. Then there are other ministries which are not constitutional positions, but which are allocated funding as ministry units and other units in the governance of Barbados. The opposition is a constitutional position, and yet there's no funding allocated to the office of the leader of the opposition or the opposition. The funding comes to Parliament in a lump sum, and the opposition can make requests upon the funding that is voted by Parliament for Parliament, and that is the way we have been operating.
The temporary quarantine center set up to receive persons arriving in Barbados from China and other regions impacted by the coronavirus is in a state of readiness. News of this came today from the Emergency Operations Center at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, which has been activated to monitor the status of the disease and its potential impact on Barbados. Senior Medical Officer with responsibility for surveillance and epidemiology, Dr. Leslie Rollock, explained that the center will receive anyone who on arrival at ports of entry is screened and is determined to have been at high risk of exposure, even though they are asymptomatic. At least 13 people remain quarantined at their homes. So far, all but one have remained asymptomatic. The one person who had a fever and tested negative for the virus has since recovered. Government is cracking down on importers and manufacturers who are still flouting the ban on petrol-based single-use plastics. That's the word from Minister of Maritime Affairs and Blue Economy, Kurt Humphrey. In fact, he's warning that existing fines could be increased and remains adamant there will be no extension to the April 1 deadline on single-use petrol-based plastic bags.
If you have violated the legislation, there are penalties associated with that, and that we intend to enforce those penalties. In fact, I am now making a recommendation to the Cabinet to move the penalty from $50,000 to $100,000. I could only hope the Cabinet agrees. But just to reinforce the seriousness with which we are taking this matter, and that once we are clear, because you have to test, you just can't go around making these statements as a government not having tested. Once we are clear that indeed these products contain polyethylene or any other ingredient that we ban, then we will go forward and apply the law as the law allows us to apply.
Humphrey was speaking to reporters today during a site visit at the Cott Holdings Limited, Newton Christchurch, which currently manufactures alternative food containers. Opposition Senator Caswell Franklin today urged government to enact strict laws, including a minimum wage, to prevent the exploitation of CARICOM workers. Senator Franklin was speaking in the upper house as he backed the Caribbean Community Movement of Skilled Nationals Amendment Bill, which adds security guards, domestic workers to the list of certified workers to be allowed to live and work here.
I just want to caution you about that aspect of it, where people can come here and be exploited too. Because we know some countries in the Caribbean, if you pay a guy $100 Barbados a day, when he goes home with that $100 and he sends it home, for after a few months, he's a millionaire in his currency. But we must not allow people to come here and pay them substandard wages that are substandard for Barbados purposes and exploit them and prevent our local people from getting jobs because they are willing to take less.
The late literary icon, Edward Kamau Brathwaite, will be accorded an official funeral on Friday, February 21 at 10 a.m. at the James Street Methodist Church. The interment will follow at the Coleridge Memorial Gardens in Christchurch. The body will repose for viewing at the Clyde B. Jones Funeral Home on Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. and at the church on Friday, February 21 from 9 to 10 a.m. The service is open to all members of the public. Persons are invited to pay their respects at the service and to sign the condolence books, which will be open at the viewings. Brathwaite passed away on February 4 at the age of 89. In sports, officials today welcomed the arrival of the 2020 Sandy Lane Gold Cup at the Grantley Adams International Airport. Sports Minister John King says this year's prestigious horse racing event is extra special since it's a part of the Regathering Initiative.
This year's Gold Cup therefore affords horse racing fans and enthusiasts globally, including those from the Barbadian diaspora, the opportunity to return to our shores and experience the highly exciting day of racing for which Barbados is renowned.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Craft Center. Kick off the weekend this Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight with loads of food, drinks, and entertainment. Get ready for Crop Over with the Rhythm Roots Street Parade. Party like it's Kadooman Day on the street around Pelican Village with costume reveler, music, and more. It's Festive Friday. It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Village Center from 4 p.m. to midnight. Admission free.
To regional news, the Caribbean Public Health Agency warns against the indiscriminate use of masks over coronavirus fears. CARFA says the region should conserve its stocks for when and if they are most needed. We get the details in this report from TV6 News.
As the country prepares for Carnival, which is only 10 days away, people from all corners of the globe are preparing to be a part of what is touted the greatest show on earth. Executive Director of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, Dr. Joy St. John, has confidence in regional COVID-19 screening measures, but she's today telling CARICOM residents keeping the virus out of the region is all in their hands.
I'm thinking about Trinidad Carnival, but this applies for other mass gatherings, not just carnivals. This whole issue that we're speaking about hand hygiene and cough etiquette, that is going to be very important.
As far as the wearing of masks is concerned, indiscriminate use is not recommended for several reasons.
The supply chain for masks and other PPE has been interrupted because, as you know, China is one of the biggest producers, and China has been more or less walled off in terms of traffic in and out.
Improper use, these officials explain, can worsen the spread.
Persons tend not to be trained in putting on the mask properly, especially the surgical type mask. You need to know how to put it on and how to take it off and how to dispose of it. Because not being able to do those things, you increase the risk of transmission of virus and virus infection.
On the international front, Beijing has ordered everyone returning to the city to go into quarantine for 14 days or risk punishment in the latest attempt to contain the deadly new coronavirus. The notice was issued by Beijing's Virus Prevention Working Group as residents return from spending the Lunar New Year in other parts of China. The measure comes as Egypt confirmed the first coronavirus case in Africa. Over 1,300 people have died from the virus which originated in Wuhan. That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.